Hi, folks. Welcome to Never on the Back Foot. In today's WPL Morning Show, we discuss RCB's statement performance in Vadodara. I know it's not very often, you can use statements like this, like, hey, RCB's won like 5 out of 5 matches. They're in this unbeaten streak since last season. But I think the smile is definitely not going to wear off mine or Soorya's face, right? Because we have been the most ardent RCB fans in the longest time. And it's really lovely to see the team perform this way. For the uninitiated, RCB defeated Gujarat Giants by 61 runs. Quite the comprehensive performance after what was, largely a shaky start in 9 for 2. Gautami Naik produced, I think, what was one of the most composed yet authoritative knocks to ensure, RCB had a more than competitive total on board. Gujarat stays saw a lot of, hurdles, didn't really find any momentum. And I think a large chunk of that credit can go to RCB's bowlers itself. So yeah, before I just speak everything about RCB's match and everything, welcome Soorya. Really happy
Thank
to
you.
have you here, and we'll obviously be discussing all major talking points. So the folks joining us in the live chat, make sure to spam us with your comments. We will take it up. But Soorya, first things first, your thoughts on the game itself, right? I mean, RCB has just been in this unbeaten streak. Again, off record, we were talking about your law of averages possibly catching up with the team, but a qualification for the playoffs, and we're just what at the halfway mark of this
Yeah.
league, right?
Remarkable. I'll be very honest. I did not see this coming at the start of the tournament because when Elise Perry withdrew, and even when you knew that Pooja Vastrakar is not fit yet, I don't know what's the status with her right now. May not matter a whole deal to RCB though, at this point, but that's only in hindsight because they're performing well. But at the start, and especially with the combination they went in with, with their batting, they pretty much had three specialist batters, and they were batting a host of their bowling all rounders. One or two spots high up the order. At least that's what I thought. But game after game, they've just had different players step up, and it was no different yesterday too. To put it into perspective, you look at Grace Harris, Georgia Wall, and Nadine de Klerk together combining for 6 runs of 12 deliveries, and Smriti Mandhana scoring 26 of 23, and they still managed to get close to 180 and win so convincingly. I mean, phenomenal performance, and quite fittingly, the first team through to the playoffs. And I think it's safe to say that they'll secure direct entry to the final. It's going to take something ridiculous for them to not secure the top spot and go into the final directly. One win will secure it now because no other team can get to 12 points. So a win and RCB will be there. But just the way they've played, you almost get the feeling as to, are the stars aligning once again for them to hold that trophy aloft, just looking at certain things, and which I'm sure we'll touch upon, but outstanding. I mean, they deserve all the plaudits coming their way because they've had to deal with some adversity as well heading into this tournament, and they've managed to maneuver their way around it really well. So kudos to RCB for the way they've stepped up.
Absolutely fair points there, that Surya. And I think, through the course of our discussion, we will talk about these special match winners and performances that sort of ensure, RCB is in the comfortable position they are in right now. But Avinash clearly giving us, a sort of an advisory here that teams, qualifying directly for the final of the WPL has never won it ever. Case in point, Delhi, right? I think the kind of run
Yeah.
that they've had in the past 3 seasons of the WPL, they did it not once, but 3 times, and all 3 times,
Yes.
sort of were at the receiving end of the result. So hopefully, this is not the case if RCB were in that situation.
I mean, there's always a first, so you never know. Maybe this is the time that a team that tops the table goes on to win. So you never know. But I mean, at the end of the day, these are not controllables. These are just things that happen by chance. And when you get to the final, you need to have a good day. And Delhi somehow have managed to botch up the final thrice. So you have a good day, things go your way, you take care of your fundamentals, then these factors really won't come in the way of it. So whichever team it is in the final, be it RCB, be it any other team who makes it to the final. So you never know. Maybe this is the time that that trend is bucked rather.
Absolutely, keeping our fingers crossed that it does end up happening. And Sachit also going on to add that it's either the ICC men's ODI World Cup 2023 or the ICC men's T20
I
World
couldn't
Cup
agree more.
2023.
I just brought that up as well off the record that after the 2023 World Cup, I've started believing even more in law of averages than ever before. So yeah, it's possible, but let's see how it goes. I think the way they're playing, they have reason to believe that it'll be the second and not the first. And again, T20 is so unpredictable anyway that even if you have a very good campaign, again, as I said, one bad day, things can come apart. And in leagues especially, there are so many unpredictable factors. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, not reading too much into it, that RCB is at the top of the table, and that could mean different things. But Avinash also going on to say, don't number one, Soorya Bhai is here. Clearly, taking a dig at our fan list. But Soorya, again, when you were just to, look largely at the match itself, like, what did you just make of the Vadodara pitch, right? There was just so much speculation and discourse about, hey, WPL is moving to a new leg. This is the new bandwagon and all of that. But at last, like, did you believe the toss also had a role to play? And the pitch conditions, did it seem appealing?
I was a little intrigued that the ball kept as low as it did. So there was consistently low bounce, and of course you expect that of a black soil surface. But Vadodara historically, you cast your mind back to last year, and there were two important factors: the toss, and that was because of the dew. Because 6 out of 6 were won by the chasing team, and you really thought Gujarat had an advantage. And when you get Georgia Wall and Grace Harris out early, you'd really like to think that you can really arm wrestle RCB and keep them down to a low score. But I thought they did phenomenally well to get to the score that they did. And with the ball keeping low, you really thought that this was, in a worst case scenario, par, if not a little above par. And I was pretty fascinated by how the pitch played. And look, the thing is with tournaments like these, when you have a caravan format where you play one leg in one particular venue and the second leg in another, then you have different surfaces being used. So tonight could be a different story. I'm not pardon me, but I'm not completely aware of how many different varieties of surfaces we have in Kotambi, in whether there's a red soil pitch or not. So I think we'll probably see that in the coming days. But what this does is, if dew becomes a big factor, I think the toss will be huge as well, because if dew is a big if dew becomes a factor when you bowl first and the ball keeps low, then you want to be a bowler in the first innings, and in the second innings it's almost as if you're playing in a completely different pitch. So and somehow I found that to be the case in Navi Mumbai too, although because the ball just hooped around in the first innings and it wasn't the case in the second. So the toss was a big factor there, but again, it also comes down to how you take care of your own controllables, because it's not as though it's impossible to win by posting a total on the board. I think Gujarat Giants did it against Delhi, Mumbai did it against Delhi, RCB did it as well against Gujarat Giants too. So it's not impossible. But yeah, the first game, it was a pretty interesting pitch. I thought it had enough in it for everyone. But and I don't think dew was a massive factor in the second innings, at least not as much as last year. But I think the coming matches will probably give us a better indicator.
Yeah, all fair points there. And just a follow probably that I also had in mind, and Avinash rightly asked us here, was the pitch helping spinners or was it just poor batting? Right now, across both teams, and you look at it, there were certain match winners. But at last, Soorya, like, do you agree with this? Like, the pitch was largely helping or aiding the spinners, and even just the pacers who were operating in those early phases of the game.
Well, like I said, I think there was a little bit in it for everyone, because it wasn't a massively scoring game in the first innings, and but RCB still got close to 180. So obviously you can only get that if the pitch is decent enough. And at the same time, I'd also like to think there were some pretty tame dismissals, like Grace Harris's wicket. She could have put that away anywhere. Unfortunately, she found the fielder at mid-on, and of course one that was too close to cut, and Georgia Wall chopped it onto her stumps. And that flick that Smriti plays of Gardner, I'm a little intrigued that she's not been that shot, because she keeps getting out to it to the same bowler again and again. So there were some ordinary dismissals too. And the second innings as well, you take the first 2 wickets. I thought, with all due respect to Sayali Satghare, I thought those 2 deliveries had to be smashed. It's probably the low bounce that the batters didn't account for. You think that ball, which Mooney got out to as well, she'd pull it away. On most days, she was bowled. And yeah, it kept low. And Sophie Devine, I thought, the moment I saw that ball, I thought, okay, she's got to smash this out of Baroda, but it ended up in the hands of deep mid wicket. Fair play, they set the field as well for that, and the fielders came into play. But yeah, I think it was a combination of both, and some largely good bowling. And I think RCB have been very smart with their bowling throughout this tournament, because not necessarily with the usage of the options, because sometimes you feel, I think there was a game Radha didn't bowl, Prema Dravid didn't bowl yesterday. When you have a lot of options, it could happen. But just the way they've bowled, cast your mind back to the UP Warriors game. Meg Lanning likes width. She likes playing the cut. They just attack the stumps and completely shut her down. So they didn't take wickets early, but they kept them very, very quiet. So, they've been very, very smart, and I think this comes down to meticulous planning, and they've done a very good job there. So I'd like to think it's a combination of both the pitch aiding the bowlers, but not a whole deal. I mean, it wasn't a minefield by any stretch, and I really thought Gujarat. I mean, if Sophie Devine had got stuck in, Gujarat might have really gotten close to the target or even chased it down for all.
Yeah, I mean, credit where it's due, right? RCB has been quite, like strategic with the kind of team combination that they're opting for too. But again, Surya, like how decisive was this performance itself, right, from RCB, especially after being put into bat first? We will talk about, how that inning sort of fared. And this is a ground, right, where chasing has historically been preferred. So again, like in the context of all of this, like does the win really still stand out for you? And a great start to the Vadodara leg?
Oh, definitely. And I think look, they played 3 games in 4 days as well. So there's also been a bit of travel in between. And such is the nature of the scheduling that it's not really easy. I know that T20 cricket, 3.5 hours on the field may not be a whole lot, but it's not easy playing 3 games in 4 days and a bit of travel in between too. So you could argue that the way RCB are playing, they probably want to be playing just about every day right now and cash in on this momentum. But I think it was very important that they sussed the conditions in Vadodara as well and got off to that start. And they'll be pretty buoyed by the fact that they've really distanced themselves from everyone else. I mean, they've got 5 wins. No other team has got 2. That is a massive gulf, and they've just run away at the top. So I think it was very important that they made this statement win, because there would have been a line of thought that if you remember last year, they won 2 matches in Vadodara. They looked like, okay, they had adversity there too. Their entire first choice spin attack that won them the title was not there, due to injury. Asha, Shreyanka, and Sophie Molyneux. And then they came to Bengaluru and they lost 4 games. And when they lost that super over game, you really thought that had sapped them of a lot of momentum psychologically and confidence too. But here, shifting to a new venue, they've once again begun in gung ho fashion. So I think it's definitely a warning shot to the rest of the competition that they are here to try and take the cup back once again.
Yeah, clearly, I think all shots have been fired, but RCB clearly here to, sort of put in a lot of statement wins like this and make their, that chase to the title run as clear as possible, right? And I think another aspect that, now we'll start discussing about RCB batting first itself. Now, RCB was what, 2 for 9 inside the, first 2 overs itself, which was concerning, right? And I think in our live chat too, we have a lot of questions coming in about is Grace Harris's form concerning? Sachit also going on to ask, like, should we play Grace Harris at fourth, sort of protect her from the swinging ball? Sachit also goes on to add that ugly, Smriti dismissal mode has given me sleepless nights for way too long. I've seen Xerox copies of it time and again. Ash Gardner making, Smriti her Bunny.
Yes.
So again, Surya, if you just had to briefly talk about that opening duo, Smriti and Grace, right? On days they get going, they're unstoppable. But then again, this is like a valid concern, right?
Uh, I don't know how much. I mean, against the swinging ball, yes, Grace Harris um, does have that issue at the top, and I think she herself was surprised that she was put at the top of the order. She admitted it because she's been playing in that middle order and as a finisher because of that sheer power she brings. Honestly, this question from Sachit as to whether Grace should play at 4. I had Grace at 4 in my playing 11 at the start of the season, because my 11 had Georgia Wall opening with Smriti Mandhana, with Perry at 3. Of course, she's not here now, and then Harris to follow after that. So, but it's interesting that Georgia Wall did not start, and they started with Grace Harris. And tactically, I think this would make a lot of sense, because Wall is probably better equipped to tackle the swinging ball, and swing has been a big factor. So if you're talking about the teams you're up against, there's Delhi with Marazan Cap, there is UP Warriors, who'll have Kranti Gaud and Shika Pandey, who can get that in swinger in. And there's also Mumbai Indians. I don't know if Shabnam Ismail will play, or will they stick with their all-rounders because of how Nicola Carey has played. But they can always give Nat Silverbrand the new ball, which is what they've been doing too. So you've got those bowlers that you can cause that trouble. So tactically, I think this would make a lot of sense to probably move Grace Harris down and push Georgia Wall up to open the batting. But because they've been winning, I do not say RCB making that change, because they've seemed to have found their combination. Everything they've touched has turned into gold. So I don't think they'll make a change. But if again, having said that, Malolan Rangarajan also spoke about wanting that overseas spinner, and that's why they started with Lindsay Smith. But in spite of the fact that they were winning, they weren't stubborn enough. They made the change and pivoted to Georgia Wall, which was the right call. I think she should have started from the beginning, especially when you knew Elise Perry wasn't going to going to play this season. So if that is how they think, then they could end up making the change. I'd like to see that happen. To be honest, I think it would make prudent sense to put Wall up top and put Grace in the middle order.
Absolutely, but seeing how RCB, anything that they touch, in Ronak Kapoor's words, is turning red and gold, I think they would be confident and not want to, tinker with this as much. Sachit obviously very cheekily adding here that I will write the most heartfelt, passionate Malolan apology letters if we absolutely pull this off. Couldn't agree better there. But
I'm glad that has been brought up because I think he's got a lot of stick and sometimes a little inexplicably so, but he's done a lot of good work, which I feel has gone unnoticed, probably under the radar, even with the men's team in terms of the scouting. The current captain was scouted out by Malolan and his team. So he's made a couple of bold calls, like Radha Yadav at 5 or 6, but looks like very clearly he knew what he was doing. And yeah, he's a pretty sharp brain. So I can definitely say that, and he's done some good things. So yeah, very happy for him, and I think he'll be pretty relieved because entering the season, he's someone who's got a lot of scrutiny around him. I once again don't understand exactly why, and I know that you had Luke Williams who couldn't take up the job this time around, but he couldn't have asked for anything better. So yeah, pretty happy in that sense for Malolan and how things have gone for the team.
yeah, I think he'd definitely be heaving a sigh of relief because most of his experiments, sort of seem to be working out well. And I think just coming back to this match itself, I mean, the kind of start that RCB had, they lost Grace Harris and Georgia Wall pretty early. Again, Surya, if you were to look at the 69-run third wicket partnership, right, between Smriti Mandhana and Gautami Naik in stabilizing the innings after that early wobble, like how would you put that in perspective? And do you think that was sort of game defining in a way because it just helped Gautami get into that rhythm? And the rest, as they say, is history, right? The way she went about her business. But that partnership, again, if you could shed some light on it.
Um, I did think that Gautami Naik ended up facing a lot more deliveries than Smriti. So probably that's why it took them a bit of time to get going because look, um, she's playing her first season in the WPL and she's walking out to bat at 9 for 2. That is far from ideal, after the second over itself. And she has to rebuild the innings. And when you're up against a swinging new ball, you've got Renuka Singh and Kashvi Gautam swinging that new ball, it's not an easy proposition whatsoever. The fact that she's played with Smriti, I think, in the Maharashtra Premier League as well, would have really helped, in terms of that rapport and that understanding. And what was very important for Gautami Naik is she's got a lot of experienced players guiding her along, beat Smriti. And then I'd like to dub Richa Ghosh as an experienced player too, even though she's pretty young. She's played a lot of top level cricket, 2 ODI World Cups now, probably, I think 3 T20 World Cups too, if not more. So she's got enough experience there to be able to guide the younger partner along. And I think Gautami Naik, she took her time, but and she did try to attack. And let's be honest, it wasn't the most fluent innings, but sometimes it's important to be effective than efficient. And I think that is what Gautami Naik was. And I think she's the first uncapped Indian batter to score a 50 in the WPL. That is quite a remarkable achievement. So, and this is one other thing that RCB have had an issue with over the years, that uncapped Indian batter at 3 or 4. And I don't necessarily blame them because the step up from domestic cricket to the WPL is a pretty big leap. So it's not very easy for a young domestic batter when you're suddenly facing bowlers bowling a lot quicker or with, a lot more quality. If you look at or international pedigree, Siva Brand, Shabnam Ismail, Marizan Cap, just to throw a few names, or even Sophie Devine. So for her to actually pull off that knock, I think it would do her confidence a world of good. And they had to stabilize against such the conditions because there's a lot of firepower to come after that. When you've got Richa Ghosh and Nadine, that's a bit of a cheat code down the order. So you can always play catch up later on. So I think it was a good partnership. They didn't let the innings stagnate either, even though they went slow. Because if you had lost another wicket or two there inside the power play, probably the game was done. So I think they handled it really well.
Yeah, and I'm so glad, Surya, you bring in the point of Smriti and Gautami, having played in Women's Maharashtra Premier League for the Ratnagiri Jets, right? I think both
Yes.
of them complement each other really well, and it's great, that they're able to bring that synergy over to RCB too. And I think in our comments too, Avinash goes on to point out that Gigi's fielding was so poor, so many dropped catches and boundaries. Georgia Waring's bowling was so poor that even Gautami hit her for sixes. Again, I think it might sound a little disrespectful, but Gautami too, right, comes in with that reputation. Like her idol handlers. Hardik Pandya loves to hit those big sixes, has been doing well domestically as
Yes.
well. But Soorya, again, do you think like Gujarat's fielding efficiency again has probably been the worst amongst the five teams?
Absolutely. And in fact, I think the first couple of games, I thought Gujarat were among the better fielding teams. Because if you remember that game against Delhi too, or even against UP Warriors, I think Fulmali took a couple of good catches. And against Delhi, I know everybody will talk about Anushka Sharma saved by the boundary ropes, but there was one at square leg too where Shefali Verma swiped the ball and she quickly dove to her right at square leg inside the ring and stopped a boundary. It was a certain force. So they did a very good job there. But yeah, in the last few games, I think two major factors: power play, batting, and fielding. It's really come apart, and I think these are factors that Gujarat almost inevitably have to tick off because of the composition that they have. So the moment that has not worked out, I think the wheels have come off a bit. But yeah, it's definitely something to work upon because I don't want to go into the cliche of catches win matches, etc. But look, these are fundamentals, and I think Gujarat conceded what um, 21 extras, including 15 wides. That itself took the score above par. So these are controllables. You need to take care of these aspects. So they have to do better on that front.
Absolutely, and hopefully this match has served as that sort of an introspection for themselves to see where they can probably improve. And fielding definitely has to be right up there in the list.
100%.
And again, just talking about Gautami's knock itself, I think Sachit goes on to ask, or probably this is just a comment, that Gautami's role in this side might be the toughest because she will only ever walk in if there's an early collapse. If the top order goes well,
Very
you're
true.
likely to see Richa come in instead, right? Again, Surya, this is a point that I was going to ask you that last night you did talk about her knock being slow, right? She was sort of trying to balance out the rebuilding side of things and accelerating. Middle overs are always a tough time to bat, but she's sort of doing her job to the best of her abilities as well. But again, like in T20s, that's how it is, right? That's the nature of the beast. The batting order can be very flexible. But again, this is like a young, unheralded star we're talking about. So, like, how do you look at this playing out for us? Like, do you agree with Sachit here that Richa could come in early, say if there's a collapse?
Yeah, 100%. Because and one more thing is because RCB have Nadine de Klerk, they don't need to hold Richa back. They can give her more time up because if it doesn't come off, we've seen enough evidence in this tournament too that de Klerk can take care of the death overs hitting. And Radha Yadav has been batting brilliantly in the last couple of games. I mean, her cameo yesterday was unbelievably good. 17 of 8 balls. That was really, really good. So I think that will definitely be the case because if the openers start well, then you want your best batters out there. This happened with Anushka Sharma as well against Delhi. When Mooney and uh, Divine batted beyond the power play, Ash Gardner came in at 3. So it is the nature of the beast because when you are really dominating, you want to put the score beyond the opposition's reach. So tactically, it makes sense. What matters then is being clear with the player. In this case, Gautami Naik, that look, this is your role. If we need someone to stabilize the innings, we're looking at you. If not, you'll probably be expected to just face a few deliveries at the end if your turn comes, and you'll have to try and hit the ball. So if you're clear with that role, and she's not the first batter with whom this sort of flexible role, where I think if I can use a term that Harsha Bhole once used to use, I think umbrella man, so to say. So the umbrella batter in this case would be Gautami Naik, and if required, she bats later on if the team starts well. So it's absolutely fine as long as you relay communication clearly because you're dealing with a young player, so that becomes very, very important. And that's where I think that knock yesterday would do her a lot of confidence because, as I said, it was not necessarily with the best of control, but look, it was a very important innings, and a lot of important, crucial knocks are scrappy knocks, and you have to sort of fight it out there against quality bowling. So she did that, and I think uh, she'll hold us. She's probably sealed her spot now in the side for the rest of the tournament. So she'll only get better and she'll keep growing from here. But yes, in this regard, I agree. If you start well, Richa has to come in up the order. That is all but the right thing to do.
And it's always pleasing signs, right? When you have young, uncapped Indian players actually performing so well, being able to translate some of those domestic knocks onto a stage like the WPL. And that's when I think a knock that sort of went unnoticed was that of Richa Ghosh, right? 20 balls, scoring 27. She was striking so beautifully, right? I think even Radha Yadav coming and just adding in her masala there, 17 of just 8. If you just were to put it in context, RCB scored what, 47 runs of those, 16 to 20 overs while our face. Now, how significant again do you think were these late contributions to sort of stretch that total to 178 and make a game out of it?
Extremely significant. And I mean, Nadine de Klerk did not face a whole lot of deliveries and they still managed to do it. And if you look at it, if we can throw in Shreyanka Patil's little cameo as well over there. For a combined 13 deliveries, these three, that is Richa Ghosh, Radha Yadav, and Shreyanka Patil, scored 52. That is a massive contribution. And it just allowed Gautami to continue holding an end and playing her role while the others just went big around her. And look, I mean, Richa's 20 ball 27 going unnoticed is not a surprise because you expect her to do that again at a bare minimum, and she keeps doing it regularly. So I'm not surprised at all. And oh, she's a beast of a hitter, and it definitely helped that there were quite a few deliveries that were dished out in the slot as well. And I must say, I'm a little shocked by Ash Gardner's returns with the ball this season. I definitely expected a whole lot more. We'll probably touch upon Gujarat a little more in detail in a bit, but outside all of that, you've also got to cash in, and that's where RCB have done well to stack their side with those power hitters who can really take advantage of it. And I think all of us have been surprised, in particular by Radha Yadav's batting this season, because look, it's not as though she could not bat, but we probably didn't expect it to hit this level. And they were in a lot of trouble the other day against Gujarat in the previous game, and she pulled off a rescue act. So, and of course, there's no need to mention what she brings with the ball and on the field. I think was it Grace Harris who said that she's the fielding captain of the team. Unsurprisingly, she's just that brilliant a fielder. But yeah, these little contributions go a long way. And yeah, I mean, it's also I want to mention Shreyanka too, because it's remarkable that she pretty much plays these two shots, the lap or the sweep and the reverse lap. It's so predictable. You can read it like a book that this is what she's going to attempt, and she still got two boundaries of it. I mean, unbelievable.
Absolutely. And before people in the live chat come after us for, just making this conversation entirely about RCB, just looking at the bowling scorecard, right, from a bowling perspective for Gujarat, I think besides Sophie Devine and Renuka Singh Thakur, who went at below 6.5 and over, I think just the rest of the bowling was stomped all around the park, right? I mean, Ash Gardner did get those 2 wickets, but has looked quite lackluster and not at her best. Happy Kumari finally gets a game in her 1 over. She went for 10 runs. Georgia Wareham's been having quite the lean season, based on the kind of standards that she had set from the WPPL. Again, if you were to sort of just look at Gujarat's bowling effort and the fact that they've just been leaking runs at the rate that they've been, concerning signs already.
Definitely, because even the two games they won, I think they conceded they won the first game by 10 runs after scoring 209 or 207. I think, sorry, 207. They scored 209 against Delhi. And even that, they nearly lost the game defending 48 in 3 overs. So they needed some divine intervention again to just take care of things. But it is a concern. And I think some of the senior bowlers not stepping up. Even Renuka hasn't necessarily been consistent. Good spell yesterday, but not necessarily been consistent. Wareham and Gardner, you'd have thought they would be leading this attack, but it's not quite been the same. In fact, one of the bowlers who's done decently enough found herself out of the 11 yesterday, and that's Rajeshwari Gaikwad. Understandable though, because if you've got two left-hand spinners and you're not using one of them, you may as well just bring someone else you might use. But Happy Kumari didn't get to bowl more than 1 over. Not sure how happy she would have been about it, but yeah, I mean, outside that very bad pun, I think Gardner's bowling and her usage of her bowlers is very, very concerning. And she's not even using herself. So the other day, I think against Delhi, the first 15 overs, she bowled one. I mean, whatever it is, in a defense, your best bowler cannot be backloaded a whole deal because you cannot leave it too late. And Gardner, all said and done, is the best bowler in this team. I know she's had a tough season and it's not really come out as well as she would have liked. And I feel she's not very confident using herself against the right-handers or deploying herself against the right-handers, because even yesterday she came on early because Smriti Mandhana was batting. And that matchup is something that we've seen over a number of years now. But I think Gardner's returns are a concern, but even more concerning is the way she has used her bowlers, because Kashvi Gautam has also struggled at the death, and they're still ending up bowling her there. So maybe when you're bowling first, maybe Gardner can bowl more at the death because she bowls quick. Her arm speed is quick. She bowls Yorkers. And, I think it's the rotation of her options that has looked a little haphazard so far. So work to do for Gujarat for sure in this regard, because I really thought the way they started this season, they were going to be on a roll, probably the team to beat. But The last few games, the wheels have come off, so it's very concerning.
Yeah, I think again, just sort of spotlighting Ash Gardner and her own usage of bowlers. There's definitely like a lot of area for improvement, and hopefully there's some foresight in the future matches as to how they can make the best use of the kind of bowling resources they have. Because I remember at the end of the auction, all of us being like, "Wow, just look at that bowling attack! And they just have
Yeah.
so many options. There's just so much they can do." But again, just looking at Gujarat's run chase itself, right? The task was cut out 179 to chase down. And here's where the twist in the plot happens, right? They lose Beth Mooney and Sophie Devine inside the first 2 overs. At the end of the power play, they're 29 for 3, right? Again, Soorya, did you think like that phase itself effectively decided the game? Because these are two large match winners who are back in the pavilion, and the scoreboard pressure and the required run rate was always going to come to bite them back later.
Absolutely. I think that's where the game ended, because it's one thing to lose wickets and not get those runs, but you also look at who's to come. And this is where I think Gujarat Giants, uh, I don't know if downgraded is the right word to use, but they probably had more resources in the middle order last year than this year, because last year they had Phoebe Litchfield and Deandra Doughton. And because of that Beth Mooney, Hurleen, the old partnership, they were able to open up the ideal entry points for Gardner, Litchfield, and Doughton. And of course, they had Bharti Fulmali as well. So those power hitters got the ideal entry point, but at the same time, they also had players of international pedigree there in the form of Litchfield and Doughton. This year, they're a lot more top heavy. I don't think there's a better opening combination in the tournament than Beth Mooney and Sophie Devine. But the two games that Gujarat have won, they've had a good partnership at the top and they've started well. So that's eased life on Anushka Sharma, on Gardner, and the rest coming in after that as well. But the moment they've lost Mooney and Devine early, it's just a little too much for some of the others to do. I know Kanika Ahuja has batted pretty well too in whatever limited chances she's got. Anushka has been the find of the tournament for me. And then there's, of course, Gardner, Fulmali. That's a very power pack batting lineup, but I think you're probably asking a little too much of them if you're losing wickets early on. So that's where I think the power play ended. And again, RCB have a lot of quality in their bowling as well to be able to really apply the choke in the middle overs. And yeah, I did fear that the moment I think Sayali Satghare took those 2 wickets, I thought the game was over right there, because it would have taken an innings of epic proportions from Gardner to pull it off all by herself.
And yeah, I mean, Ash Gardner, as much as, we've sort of been critiquing her captaincy and her bowling aspect and everything, but she's still someone, who's lending the team a lot of support through her batting as well, right? She once again stood tall with her knock of 54 coming of just 43 balls. I know a lot of people will criticize that, hey, it was one of those scratchy knocks. But then again, the context is that so many wickets were falling around her, right? Anushka Sharma was dismissed early on, Kanika Ahuja as well. Now, isolated, if you just look at her innings, right? Do you just think that, hey, she actually played a good knock, but then she just needed support at the other end to sort of ensure that the run chase was going to be competitive?
Absolutely, and I don't think there's a whole lot else that she could have done, because had she tried attacking a little too early and gotten out, then this innings would have folded perhaps under 100. So um, she tried giving Gujarat the best chance, but again, the moment those 2 early wickets fell, life was always going to be difficult. I know Anushka batted pretty promisingly. I don't think she's 100% fit either. With that strapping on her right arm, you could see her bottom hand come off quite often when she was playing those slashes. So it wasn't easy. Tough day for Gujarat in that sense, and tough day for Gardner too. But I thought she did whatever best she possibly could, and she was holding a lone fort there. So really can't fault much in terms of the innings, and I thought she played pretty well. And yeah, her batting has just hit stratospheric heights in the last couple of seasons in the WPL and in the World Cup as well. You just saw her play some outstanding innings, against New Zealand and England. So that's just how brilliant a player Ash Gardner is, and one of the most valuable players on the planet. If I can make a revelation here, in fact, there was a mock WPL auction that I recently played with friends, and I broke the bank to get Ash Gardner as the most expensive player. So that's how highly I rate Gardner there. So yeah, she's just really good, and she'd hope that there's more support elsewhere. But at the same time, from a bowling standpoint, you'd hope that she can step up. Batting, there's really nothing much to complain at all. I mean, she's just been outstanding.
Yeah, completely agree with you there, Surya. She's an absolute gun all rounder, value add to any side that she's a part of. And probably just a follow up here, not exactly related to this match, is now Australia too, right? We'll be looking at a new era, post Alita Healy era. So again, who are some of the front runners for you in this position? For me, the first name that comes to mind is that of Ash Gardner because T Mac seems to be in that sort of a form where I don't know if the team would sort of want to go back to her and elevate her to captaincy while she's going through a lean patch herself. But Ash Gardner, Phoebe Litchfield, names like these giving you a lot of indications that they could be next in line there.
100%. I'd be very surprised if Gardner was not the next captain. And you can just see that she's got that role. I mean, at different levels now. She's led Sydney Sixers in the WPL. It's the second year in charge of the Gujarat Giants. And if you cast your mind back to the World Cup, she was actively involved in discussions on the field. I think Alyssa Healy missed a couple of games and Talia McGrath was the captain, but Ash Gardner was constantly in her ear as well. So I think she's very naturally a leader. And I mean, uh, look, she's also approaching what I'd like to think are her peak years, which is pretty scary to think of because she's already been such a fine player that if you think her peak is yet to come, then just imagine what all she can do. So I'll be very surprised if Gardner is not the captain. I know that Meg Lanning has personally earmarked Phoebe Litchfield as a player who could play that role. And there's Annabelle Sutherland too, who's been leading Melbourne Stars, and she could potentially be the vice captain. So I think it'll be Gardner as captain and Sutherland as vice captain. Um, that's what the crystal ball tells me. But let's see if that's how it pans out. I'll be surprised if that's not the way it is. And uh, a shout out to Alyssa Healy, a phenomenal career, and I hope she gets a fitting farewell. Hopefully, she'll go a little easy on India, but outside that, I think a phenomenal career and a great, great ambassador for the sport. So, yeah, just wanted to take a moment to appreciate what she's done as well for the sport.
Absolutely. And I'm so glad, Surya, you bring in this point because just, after the WPL, the next series that India will be playing is, this Australia one. And there's just so much to look forward to in that regard. Also, just like a quick segue here, we have a new subscriber who goes on to say, like the way you guys analyze the game, new subscriber here, wish you guys, keep growing from strength to strength. That's really kind of you. Thank you so much. And to all the other viewers too, right, watching us, if you haven't already subscribed, please make sure to subscribe to us and follow Surya on Twitter as well. But just again pivoting back to the match, when you look at Gujarat's like the rest of the batting effort, I mean, it really cuts a sorry figure, right? Like most of them just weren't able to do as much as possible, get off the strap, so to say. Bharti Fulmari too, right? As much as we rate her as highly to be that sort of a finisher, the asking rate was just too much, and it was always going to be, that sort of an uphill task to. Ensure Gujarat was going to win, which brings me to the aspect of RCB's bowling itself, right? I think enough has been spoken about Sayali Satghare and Lauren Bell, the kind of performances they've been putting in. But here's my Surya, I want to get your thoughts on just how RCB has, the management itself probably has given each bowler like a clear defined role, right? You have Bell with the new ball, Sayali Satghare also attacking her early, sort of complementing her beautifully. You have Nadine the Klerk, locking in those mid overs. Shreyanka Patil controlling the other. And these are just names I'm throwing at you. There's like a lot more other factors and things, that's really working out well. Like, do you think this clarity has contributed to the margin of victory? And at each point, RCB had answers as to, which bowler can be thrown to the respective batter?
Definitely, and they've all stepped up, and you need that clarity as well. You need to know how you use your players, how you define their roles. That solves half the problem. Obviously, it comes down to how you execute too. But I think you can cast your mind back to the last season when Renuka Thakur bowled that last over against UP Warriors, and you just felt, now what? Why is she bowling at that phase of the innings? So. I think they would have taken a harsh lesson out of that and just defined the roles clearer. It helps that you've got Shreyanka who can bowl at the death, even though she's been a little expensive this season. She bookends the death overs pretty well, and I think having Lauren Bell with the new ball has been a massive, massive factor. I think she's been one of, if not the best bowler in the competition already. So uh, I think she has. I mean, she's a quality bowler. She's a world class bowler, one of the best seamers around. But even keeping that in mind, I think she's exceeded my expectations. She's just been outstanding in terms of her control, the way she's got the ball to swing and seam, and the fact that she moves it away from the right hander, it kind of dovetails nicely with Sayali Satghare getting it back into the right hander. So you have some variety there from either ends. either end. And I think the spinners as well, there's a lot of variety there. Even Prema Rawat, she took a couple of wickets in the previous game, so she didn't bowl yesterday, but they've got a lot of options and a lot of variety there to pick from. And for a change, you're seeing that the seamers are setting things up for RCB, because it's been a very spin heavy team. Or the year they won the title as well, it's been all about spin, but the seamers are doing a very good job, and it looks a very complete attack, with options across faces. And we've not seen Grace Harris bowl yet and take a wicket. She's got a hat trick in the WPL. Let's not forget. So yeah, I think Smriti is very blessed with a lot of options in that regard, and uh, I think they're doing a really good job. And it's just a question of how they can, in case they are attacked a little early in the power play and put under pressure, how do they respond to it? So that'll probably give a better idea as to how they're able to pull things back, because they've really not been tested in that regard. And I don't think it'll be a bad thing for them to be tested before the knockouts as well.
Yeah, completely agree with you there. And I think this was a comment that came in earlier, where Keshav goes on to, like, I don't know, ask us or probably just give a comment that it was reported that Pooja Vastrakar would be fit 2 weeks into the tournament. Now, how will RCB manage if and when Pooja and Arundhati are back? Prema and Sayali have done really well. It's kind of like problems of plenty. I think even Sachit's comment goes on to say that role definition is solid right now. But what happens if Aru comes back? Furthermore, what happens if Pooja comes back? It's clearly a selection headache. Again, Surya, if you were to sort of look at this situation, imagine you were in the RCB think tank, like how would you address it, right? Is Pooja an automatic lock-in your playing 11? Would you, still want to stick to what is clearly working out well right now?
I mean, you'd rather have this problem than have a problem where you've got too many players unavailable or not informed. So I think it's not a bad place to be in at all. And yeah, it's going to be a difficult call to make, but I think that's where perhaps securing that qualification and being one win away from locking in a spot in the final would mean that you can actually experiment. And if you want to give Pooja Vastrakar a go, that's a lot of experience there once again in the WPL and in the as an India cricketer as well. So you can give Pooja Vastrakar that opportunity for a couple of games, get her in, because she's not played in over a year now. That's a long, long time. And Vastrakar too can bowl across faces. She can hit a long ball. She's a good fielder. That's a lot of good qualities to have there. Arundhati Reddy too. We know how good she can be as a defensive bowling option, especially. So it's actually very tough to make a call at this point of time. I'd be tempted to go back towards one of Vastrakar or Arundhati, to be very honest, because I think you'd want that experience when you come to the big final. And I think two seamers are locked in anyway in Lauren Bell and Nadine Klerk, and you've got enough spin options. So conditions could also dictate it. Maybe is Prema Rawat a little surplus to your requirements? Do you want another pacer? That could also become a bone of contention. But I think it's actually very difficult to call right now, because whoever you leave out would really feel hard done by. But personally speaking, I think keeping in mind the knockouts and the big match experience, Arundhati's played 3 finals. Pooja has played a final and an eliminator, and she's obviously played for India for a long time. So I'd be very tempted to go back to at least one of them in case they're fit and available. So yeah, I'd be lying if I said that I wouldn't want to pivot towards that direction as well. Who goes out though is difficult. It could be Satghare, unfortunately, who may have to be the unfortunate omission. But yeah, that's the way it rolls. Sometimes you have to make some tough calls when you can only pick 11.
I think, like Smriti Mandhana says, we take each day as it comes and not look too far ahead, right? I think, as you rightly said, the conditions will dictate, what's the kind of team combination that RCB wants to opt for. And let's keep our fingers crossed it is in the best interest of, how RCB would want to shape up for that match as well. Another question coming in from Pooja that goes on to ask us, like, how would you rate Smriti's captaincy this year? And what do you think of Harman, being the skipper even after 9 years? Like, I think she's talking about the ODI squad for
Yes.
Australia here. There were calls, right, that Smriti could have possibly been given captaincy for one of the formats, and, like, it would have made sense for a good succession plan as you look ahead. Yeah, so yeah, again, over to you. Like, just your thoughts on this.
I mean, Smriti's not done much wrong this season, and I think she's ticked off most things right anyway. So don't think there's a whole lot to talk over there. And I've always believed that Smriti is a very good leader. The tactical side of things is one thing, but she's someone who really keeps the team united. And I think we've seen that she took a more hands-on role from 2024 when she gave up playing the WBBL to look into the domestic circuit, get a few players on her radar, and I really see a quality leader. You've seen someone like Jamie Rodriguez really talk about this. How Smriti's always looked out for her, and that's the quality that you want. To be able to keep the team united and happy. Regarding Harmanpreet Kaur being the ODI captain, I'm also on that boat that perhaps this was the right time to transition. I know it's very tough, and you might just think, hey, she's just won a World Cup. But look, you're also looking realistically at the next World Cup, which will be in 2029. Will Harmanpreet Kaur make it? Um, I mean, considering age and factors like that, we do not know. So, was it the right time to hand it over in one format with Harman there as a leader in the side? I don't think it would have been a bad move at all, because I personally believe that you need to try and give the new captain as much time as possible, which is why I could understand why. I don't want to necessarily bring a men's cricket analogy here, but there was obviously a big shift there too, from Rohit Sharma to Shubman Gill, and I could understand why the selectors did that. But one thing is, at least in women's cricket, you see a lot of ODIs being played. So there's still a long time to go. So that way, it may not necessarily make a huge, it may not be a huge deal right now. But yes, if realistically, if Harman is not going to make it to that next World Cup, then you might want to start planning ahead and looking ahead. I mean, Smriti's led, and she's got enough experience, but yeah, you want to give her the opportunity to take the team forward her way too. So I'm also on that boat, at least for ODIs. T20s, of course, is a World Cup coming up. Only 6 more games to go before you play that World Cup. So yeah, no reason to change that right now.
Yeah, completely agree with you there. And again, it was just hoping that the team management does have a rethink. Probably, after that Australia series, or whenever they think the time is right, to have this entire talk of succession. I know in Indian cricket circles and the ecosystem, every single time conversation like this comes up, things can go a little south. So hopefully, it is dealt with a lot of care and caution like that. Another question that comes in our chat is, guys, who do you think will be the other two teams, to reach the playoffs? It looks good fight for the other two spots. All the other four, have a chance right now. Surya, over to you. RCB has clearly made the cut there in the playoffs. Now there are just two more spots left. Who's going to be that for you?
I still see Mumbai Indians there. They're too good to not be there. And you look at the way that middle order is functioning, the way Nicola Carey has stepped up with bat and ball. Um, I'm surprised they won just 2 from 5. And the other day, I seriously thought that they could pull off that chase against UP Warriors, and they needed about 18 5 overs or something like that. And Amanjot and Amelia Kerr were just going bonkers. So it's quite ridiculous. And I think it's really surprising that Mumbai have lost 3, but they're a little too good to not make it. So I think Mumbai Indians will be there. The other team, I think it's going to be the clash between UP Warriors and Gujarat Giants that's coming up later this week. I think it's on Thursday. I think that's going to be a knockout. That's my take on this. So whoever wins that's a 4-pointer. You're going to see a lot of 4-pointers. It's a proper dogfight now between the bottom 4. And Mumbai and UP Warriors have played their 2 games, and UP Warriors have got those points. But I'm giving the edge to UP Warriors because I personally believe in this momentum factor. The one catch is UP Warriors play on the 22nd, and they don't play for a week. So is that going to sort of sap them of some momentum, especially if they win that? I don't know. It's possible, but I'd like to think the pieces are coming together at the right time, at least for UP Warriors, going by the last 2 games, because winning 2 against Mumbai Indians is not a small thing, and you won pretty convincingly. So maybe it's coming together at last. And we were chatting about it as well, that UP Warriors could potentially be out of the tournament after the 4th game, but thankfully that wasn't the case. And I'm glad that it's not the case, because they had a very good auction, the best auction in my opinion, and they've put together a very good squad. And the wheels are unfortunately just coming off at the wrong time for Gujarat Giants. So it's going to be one of those two. The edges with UP Warriors. You never write out a team that's led by Meg Lanning. So I'm just giving the edge slightly to UP Warriors right now. You might think it's recency bias, but I just feel maybe things are coming together. Maybe they'll peak at the right time. You never know. Delhi, unfortunately, have just a few too many issues. So it's going to be tough for Delhi to make a dash, is what I feel. They've got to win tonight. They really have to win tonight. If not, it's going to be tough.
Yeah, agree with you there. And I think there was this earlier comment to that Sachit brought in that Sue Lanning won't let go of a chance to say that, Australia haven't made it to a final since Lanning left. So we have Soorya to, vouching for UP Warriors to sort of make it to that playoffs, courtesy Meg Lanning and the kind of captaincy value she brings to this setup. We also have Asha here being very vehement about saying that, hey, RCB is going to be the WPL winner. The comment comes in multiple times. And also the fact that yeah, that opening should be with Georgia Wall. But yeah, again, we have to see if RCB wants to tinker with this as much. And again, Surya, just coming back to this match itself, like where do you think Gujarat Giants goes from here? Right, considering the kind of start they've had. Right now, they are in this very torrid run. I'm just going to put it as flatly as possible. They
Yes.
really need some infusion of momentum back to see if they can manage and see where they can go from here. And I think Avinash too in our comments earlier had brought in that I'm saying since last week Gigi should drop Wareham, get Kim Garth, and they can play Shivani Singh in place of Happy Kumari. Like, do you agree with this sentiment and some reinforcements that Gigi really, really needs to bring in right now?
It's tough to say because they've actually got enough pace options if you look at it, and Sophie Devine's bowling 4 overs pretty much every game. And I know Garth can bat, but Wareham brings a lot of value as that hitter. So it's tough. You could also make a case for someone like Danny White, Hodge to come into the mix because they probably need to bolster their batting a little more. Simply because I know the bowling is what has struggled, but the day that Mooney and Divine don't take off, you would worry. The only thing is, it's Mooney and Divine, and I am still very, very surprised that 5 games in, Mooney's not had that big knock yet. Even in a very average season, you will see Beth Mooney make an impact. Average season by her standards, that is, because she's that good a batter. So maybe she's saving her best for the right time. Kim Garth for Wareham, look, I think they'd want that Risty, and I get the sentiment because Wareham has really struggled. There is no denying that she has struggled with the ball, and you'd expect better. But look, Kim Garth too is better used up top with the new ball. Now you've already got Renuka, you've got Kashvi as well who's doing that. So are you going to serve any purpose by bringing Kim Garth in, where at least with Wareham you get that hitting, and she can play those 25 of 10 cameos, which could really be the difference and could give you extra cushion of runs to work with for your bowling attack. So I'd still stick with Wareham for that. But yeah, in an ideal world, they definitely needed to make more of an impact with the with the ball in particular. But and I think Gujarat would want Beth Mooney to start firing because she's just too good to have this kind of a season. So if she fires, I think it sorts a lot of things because you just know she'll take care of one end. The first ball yesterday showed Beth Mooney's quality. She clipped it to mid wicket. She started running. She just ran immediately, and the fielder put in a dive. It was a misfield. They got two. On most other days, most batters probably would just wait, play it a little safe, and on the misfield take a single. Mooney is just a phenomenal runner between the wickets too. So um, I'm still awaiting that big knock, and it would probably have to come against Gujarat Giants because, as I said, against UP Warriors because UP Warriors have that quality in their attack, and I think that's a 4-pointer that could decide the last playoff spot. That's the way I see it.
Bold prediction there, Surya. And I think another comment from Avinash that came in earlier was that having at least bowled 1 over, but Nalla ready is go home ready, which again probably throws into context, how Mumbai clearly does not use some of their
Yeah, yeah.
players, in that playing 11, let alone the squad adequately. We will briefly talk about, tonight's encounter, just, preview that. But again, Surya, we have spoken so much about RCB and the things that are really working out well for them. And I think at this point, we have probably spoken about it to death, right? We have so many players who are stepping up at the right time across departments to ensure that they're on the right side of the result. But do you still think there are chinks in the armor that need to be addressed, need to be sort of, ironed out as they head deeper into the season, although they've qualified for the playoffs?
I mean, there's always room for improvement. You can keep getting better. There's no doubt about it. I think they've dealt with an early collapse well yesterday, so props to them for that. Probably, I think someone did mention if Grace Harris's form is a concern. I don't know if I'll call it a concern, but it wanted to probably be amongst the runs consistently so that that doesn't become a problematic factor later on and put too much pressure on Smriti Mandhana. Outside of that, I think Shreyanka Patil bowled well yesterday, but again, the game was set up. So how she steps up elsewhere because she has a fifer, She's taken wickets consistently, but again, it's not the same old Shreyanka that we saw in 2024 in the second half, especially. So, but she's also coming back from injury. She's easing her way in. I wouldn't call it a big concern, but the more she bowls, I think she'll keep getting better, and you'll probably see her hit her best because I think she's a very, very critical bowler. Towards the back end of the innings, and I'm very happy that she's back in the Indian team as well for the Australia tour for the T20s at least. So outside that, again, probably how they use their bowlers, just ensure that Prema Rawat has enough overs under her belt going into the final or the eliminator. I mean, again, I don't see RCB playing the eliminator. I think they'll be in the final directly. And Radha Yadav too probably want her to get into it, but overall the fact that they've had different players stepping up, you really don't have too much to worry about. When you've got even your younger players like Gautami Naik and Sayali Satghare doing the job, then it really isn't too much of a concern. It's just about ensuring that you maintain this and you don't go out of, or you don't lose steam at the wrong time.
Yeah, completely valid point there, and agree with you, Surya. Hopefully, RCB, doesn't lose that momentum, and their season just gets better. It augurs well for a side where you don't have certain key players performing, but it's like an entire team effort and different match winners emerge. I knew this comment was coming. I can't take it anymore if we see November 19th thing happening with RCB women now. Yeah, like I'm a diehard RCB fan. If anything got to happen downhill, let it happen in any of these three matches, not in big games, please. I think this comment pretty much like summarizes the kind of sentiment that we have too, and just keeping our fingers crossed, things don't go in that direction. But Surya, almost as we reach the end of our discussion as well, tonight itself, right, we are in for probably another very interesting match, right? We have Delhi Capitals take on Mumbai Indians. Mind you, this is a struggling Delhi Capitals unit, quite unlike the kind of prowess that they had back in the day. And I think that was this one comment too about Jemmy's captaincy itself. Like Avinash goes on to say, like, what do you think of Jemmy's captaincy? I feel she is too over the board, jumping around, patting on shoulder to everyone. If someone like Henry or Carp got annoyed, and she would probably show a real pat there. But again, Surya, like your just a slight preview for this DC versus MI match and just Jenny's captaincy. Like, what have you made of the struggles this season and how she's been dealing with it?
Um, Early days, to be honest, but yeah, probably not overly convincing just yet because of certain aspects. Like, for instance, bowling Sneharana in the last over of the power play to Sophie Devine, that was pretty much lamb to the slaughter. Or for that matter, not being able to use Minu Mani, the combination, playing both off spinners, and if you've got them and you're still bowling Shefali Verma, then you've got to give the combination a serious rethink. And I think that's on both Jemima and Jonathan Batty, who's the head coach. So they have some thinking to do there because they may as well play an extra batter, Dia Yadav or Mamta Madiwala perhaps. So they might as well look in that direction. But outside that, and even the angles, I thought shot third was a little too square the other day when Smriti just kept playing the late cut. So, and that wasn't corrected despite the number of shots, number of times that she played that late cut, or perhaps the ball took the edge too. So, couple of things here and there, and she's probably still learning on the job, and you'll get a better idea in the second season. Not everyone masters it straight up, and it's fair enough. I mean, look, regarding this jumping around, patting players on the shoulder, look, I think that's just the character that Jemmy is. She likes to keep everyone happy, and I see that sort of quality like Smriti, where she can keep the team united. And I think Laura Bulwark's or one of the other players to mention that Jemmy's taken care of that, and that she always keeps the team together. So you'd expect that from Jemmy. That is the way she is, whether she's captain or not. It's just in her nature to do that. And that is not a problem. You want to have a captain who encourages your players and keeps everyone together, especially when you're having a challenging season. Tactically, it'll take a bit of time for her probably to pick up, but I think she'd want some of her players to step up as well. Marizan Cap has not had that season, and it doesn't help that Annabelle Sutherland's absence is hurting them dearly because it's leaving the batting thin, it's leaving you short of a pacer. And now Chanel Henry was injured in the last game. That complicated matters too. So tough times for Delhi, but again, I don't think they necessarily had the best auction either. So that's kind of coming back to bite them pretty hard. But yeah, they've got to win tonight. Like I said, if they do not win tonight, I think it'll be very difficult for them to make their way back to the tournament.
Yeah, I think if Delhi ends up losing tonight, it could mean, curtains for their campaign and a really, really difficult route to sort of ensure that they could make it to the playoffs. Like, then I think they'll have to like really pull out calculators and see, where that takes them. Avinash also going on to add that as a UP Warriors fan, I want MI to win today. It will reduce our competition for top three against Delhi Capitals. Fair point. We see
Fair
you,
enough. Yeah.
Avinash, and where you're coming from. Aryan also, I think, going on to add a point that we were talking about earlier, key opening with Wall and Gauti goes to number three and Harris at number four. Never know. RCB would be probably inclined to use this at some point when they're even more
It makes a lot
comfortable
of
in space
sense.
and like, yeah, mix and match a little bit. But yeah, Surya, I think that pretty much does conclude our discussion. We have comprehensively reviewed this match, the Gujarat Giants versus RCB encounter, spoken about so many other talking points. So yeah, first things first, thank you so much for joining me. I know we will be doing this for the next couple of days as well. So quite looking forward to that. Thanks for all the
Likewise.
insights today. And to all the viewers who joined in, we absolutely loved your comments. Please keep them coming as we continue the WPL morning show. And if you haven't already subscribed to Never in the Back Foot, please do. And do check out Soorya on Twitter and make sure to follow him for his lovely insights. But yeah, folks, until next time, stay safe, take care, and yeah, we'll meet you tomorrow morning at the same time. Cheers.
Bye bye. Cheers.